Late American author and speaker Wayne Dyer specialized in helping people understand their true inner self. Today, we will talk about his teachings about how your thoughts build the future you want. If your thoughts shape your identity, then you need to start thinking critically about what you let into your mind. Start by being careful about bringing up your unfulfilled life goals in conversations with anyone, including friends, family, mothers, fathers, spouses, and children. Because if you want to attract something into your life, something good, something grand, something godlike, something prosperous, something of well-being, health, whatever it might be. But instead, you talk about what's missing and think about what's missing, and you know that what you think about is what expands. You will continue to expand more of what's missing, and you will continue to attract what's missing. I never dwell on what I lack, but rather focus on what I hope to achieve. In any case, I moved it having realized the error of my ways to a very long time ago. The teachings of Abraham, as presented in Esther and Jerry Hicks' book, Learning to Manifest Your Desires, communicate this idea more clearly than anywhere else. In my opinion, they rank among the very best philosophies ever espouted by human beings. Further, Esther and Jerry are people I am familiar with. I spent a lot of time with them. The key is to train yourself to focus on rather than on what you lack. Please don't worry, it's on its way. The future is bright. Just tattoo those words on yourself. If there is something you want to manifest in your life, have faith that it is already on its way to you. In addition, I'd like to tell you that as you start to align your thoughts more with Tao thinking, that is, with the thinking of the source thinking of God, that which always has been, that which does nothing but leaves nothing undone, you'll find that your life becomes increasingly peaceful and fulfilling. To the extent that you start harmonizing in this way, the result is a mental ascent, so that your usual mode of thought comes to be more in harmony with rather than in opposed to the things you seek. It starts to sound better alongside it, and eventually, that method of thinking will become second nature to you. Then you go on to instill those same beliefs in your offspring. You wait for them to make a negative prediction such as, "Oh, with my luck it won't work out," and then pounce. How is it that we've all come to understand the phrase, "with my luck in having it," to suggest that a given situation is doomed to fail? So why wouldn't you say that? And with my luck, it becomes a regular occurrence for you. Perhaps it will appear sooner than usual. Having such a means seems reasonable, because this is what happens as your mindset changes and you anticipate a positive outcome from the situation. What you think determines what you do. Having those increasingly lofty ideas have a positive effect on your ability to attract things to which they are most closely related. To follow through on that idea, you take action, and as you begin to take action on the belief that it will work out, that it's probably on the way, you begin to realize how this whole system works. In other words, fate, the cosmos, or whatever you choose to blame starts acting in a way that makes you feel like a partner. Instead than waiting for fate to decide what happens to you, you work together with the outcome you desire. As the doctor here now, since there are doctors here today, about this thing called the will to live. If you need to Camille transplant, ask the surgeon which patients they would prefer to deal with. One is who optimistic about the outcome and believes what they are about to see, or one who is pessimistic and believes they will be blinded. What exactly is the thing that people talk about that they say they have the will to live? My mother is 90 years old, almost 91, and I've spent the last 5 days with her every morning, all morning long. She's been going through some difficulties, and so most of you probably saw her on the PBS show if you saw The Inspiration. What is this thing? The inner kind of thing that says, I refuse to allow myself to think. To this day, she still tells me exactly how she plans to pass away. When she was 60 years old, she told me how she expected to pass away in her sleep. Also, it was supposed to be a tranquil event, and she would act on it only when the time was right for her. She would go when she was ready, and when the time came, she would recognize it. And she says, well, you got a hangnail there, which she doesn't think it's time to tell. Perhaps it's time to drop the subject. Yet I'll let you know when it's time. But she insists that she will never give in to Alzheimer's disease. In every other instance, she has insisted that this was not her actual wording. Well, I can't remember his name as well as I did before. But that idea is just not something I've ever given myself permission to consider possible. Then I asked, what if you're wrong? And she replied, well, who will know the difference? What does life look like after age 60 is a topic that has been explored in gerontological studies. In addition, people who maintain an active lifestyle in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s have a very different life trajectory than those who retire at a young age and spend the rest of their lives in a sedentary state. If you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s and you don't think getting older implies you have to decrease in any way physically or cognitively, getting older has nothing to do with the concept of decreasing that you may have. They have significantly better chance of avoiding their kinds of age-related diseases than those who view old age as infirm and declining throughout their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, because this is how they imagine their existence in their 60s. That you revise your opinion on the subject, and yet you insist that declining is simply not an option. When something isn't there, I don't dwell on its absence. The absence is not emphasized. You keep quiet about the things that aren't there. Also, you keep quiet about the things you are unable to change, the strategies that aren't helping, and the utter despair you feel about the state of the world. Being aimed at those in authoritative positions, the Tao inevitably contains a wealth of information about the subject. But I've interpreted all in terms of your own leadership capability, and the great leaders are the ones who issue violence. So you need to watch the movies you're viewing to get to a position where you don't let violent thoughts enter your brain. Thus, you should keep an eye on the video games your kids are playing and take them away if they incur any violent content. This could indicate that you avoid keeping up with current events by not turning into the news, and you don't read the tales that keep telling you what a dreadful place the world is. This location is ideal. The scenery is stunning. Sure, some leaders have tied to skepticism while others don't, but that's not a universal truth. When enough people start saying, "Not part of my consciousness," we can make the world we live in a reality. In any case, I don't believe in rumors. In a word, no. You can rule out any involvement on my part there, and to turn it off, you simply change the station. Every time I board a plane, I make sure to get a copy of Time. I've gone through and decided I won't read any of the books that feature murder. I refuse to read it because I have no interest in reading about those who choose to commit themselves by bombing themselves. Since I aim to be a source of positive energy, I see no reason to keep that thought in the back of my mind. This is what I do, and God finally figured it out. But I can't avoid being saturated with it indefinitely. Therefore, I just flip over the pages. As for the $4.95, I generally just say I'll waste it. You won't find any interesting reading materials inside. Once in a while, a decent tale, but it usually involves Tiger Woods or anyone like that. But generally speaking, there isn't too much to see inside. Also, you don't fuel yourself with negativity. What you may not dwell upon that is lacking. What has always been is not something you base your thinking on. You don't base your actions on the expectations of others. If you don't want the things other people desire for you to keep showing up, you should stop caring what they want. To avoid focusing on anything that isn't in line with the kind of connection you'd like to have with the people in your life in case it's a source of conflict. A love story needs not be an exception. You can change your negative mental state and discard your hate story at any time. We shall see. You can expect to see it in the afternoon if you're lucky. While working with some of you, Kate encourages you to ask yourself, how can you be sure, by asking yourself specific questions? What gives you such confidence that your assumption is correct? If you still feel romantically attached to your ex-spouse, there's no reason to stop that from happening. There's no reason to not get along with your in-laws romantically. So what if it doesn't? The world should just have it after all. The answer is obvious. Okay, I see no reason why not. These opinions are always available to you. One of two things. Either you're God's guest or your own prisoner. You get to decide. May God richly bless you, and thank you for listening. Many thanks.